Good morning. So this is English 133. So I already graded everything in terms of SU daily attendance, right? Excuse me. We will be having midterm turn-ins on Thursday, and it's the prompt and the topic is how has COVID-19 impacted you in isolation and in quarantine, or what is it about it that has impacted you? I want it in pages, or I want it on Word document. Make sure you do a test run so you can open it. I can open it on my end hopefully, and you could sort of open it. So make sure you open it and make sure you save it just in case you didn't upload correctly, and then I will put a link for that. All right, so I graded everything. Let's talk about the weekly time charts, which was the first one, and it's on page 3. Some of you didn't do your whole week. The whole point of doing this is so you can figure out where it is, not just your school, but where it is that you have time, because we complain about not having time and the time and time and time. So that way you see what your whole schedule is. I gave you guys a grade anyway, but make sure that you check on your comments on whatever assignment you turned in, because I put comments on there, okay? And there was some of you that did it incorrectly. So there's also some of you that uploaded the assignment and I couldn't open, so I didn't give you a grade. I'm gonna give you time to upload it. I said end of business day today, so make sure you get it in, okay? Today, Monday. So lots of hours that you have to study, in order to become an elite student, okay? I'm just gonna review the assignments today just briefly, and then I will talk tomorrow and on Wednesday on chapter 1. The other thing is that I'm going to be sending out a conference invite right for Teams, so that way we can conference hopefully on Wednesday. Okay, I will do an afternoon conference and then sort of an evening one for both classes. So interesting on the weekly time chart. The other thing is that there's a lot of people that put I have to write and take them here and take them there and I have to go here. I don't think most of you are working, so you need to modify that schedule. That means you didn't do, if you're still taking your kids to places and you're still going out or whatever, we're one of the highest, in the state of Texas of cases. Okay, so that means that we're not following the quarantine and the self-isolation. So make sure you follow that, because the weekly time chart was based on your weekly time chart. What is it that you've been dealing with? And we've all had to adjust. I mean, we've been in quarantine. I don't know. It seems like forever. It hasn't. But anyway, okay? So make sure you go back and really review that, okay? I did notice a lot of people, there's a lot of sleep on there, okay? So unless I read it incorrectly, you guys are sleeping a lot. And there's a lot of people that wake up really late, like 8 or 9 o'clock. And I didn't see that they have graveyard. So usually people that wake up kind of late, they have graveyard. If you don't have graveyard and you're not working and you're getting up at 8 or 9, that's late. I'm just going to call it, okay? I'm just going to call it. That's late. Half of your morning's gone, okay? So very productive people and people that are very highly successful, and all my clients are millionaires, every single one of them. There's a different span of millionaires, right? Some of them are in the 5 to 10s of millions. The other ones are into 20s or 30s. I have a huge client that's probably that has a portfolio of 100 million. All right, so all those people put in a lot of hours. And if they wake up late, that means that they're working all the way to 10 or 11 o'clock at night, or they go to sleep really late. Okay, so if you're waking up super, super late, you're waking up super, super late. But there's a lot of stuff that wasn't accounted for 8 or 9. And of course, that just starts at 8 or 9. There's people that, were still asleep at 8 or 9. So you need to check on that up. All my life, I've woken up really early, especially with the kids. So my children always had breakfast before I left, and my school's always opened. My elementaries, we were in class by 7:30, so I had to be in school by latest 6:30, an hour before. Okay, and so make sure that let's see what it is. I mean, you can't be successful if you're sleeping. And are you sleeping because you're home more? And that's what I've noticed, right? I get tired, I don't want to do things, I sort of get lazy, and I'm sort of sleepy all the time. I've never been sleepy all the time. So I usually did catch up on Saturday and Sunday most of the time, but you know, and I like my naps. There's a lot of people who are taking naps like every single day. I don't know. I mean, I guess. But if you don't have enough time for everything else, you should really look into your schedule. Just saying, okay? You can do whatever it is that you want, but you're wasting a lot of time. So check to see where you're wasting a lot of time, and check to see that you're optimizing your time, because that's really what this whole thing is about. The weekly time chart was about optimizing your time, understanding what time you had, understanding the amount of time that you had to put in. One of my students is like, wow, like she had like 36 or 40 hours, which is exactly the amount of hours that you should be putting in for school. It's a full-time job, okay, guys? That's why it's hard. So if you're not working, this is your job. If you're working, your other job, and this is your job. And that doesn't include if you have kids and if you have a family. So it is what it is, okay? And as I have mentioned always in all my classes, this is the hardest time for you all, because this is when you build your career, and this is where you get your degrees, and this is where you're climbing the ladder, okay? So this is it. And part of the reason is that if you're young, that's great. And if you're coming, you know, and you're older, you're going to breeze through it quickly, okay? Because you're in a really good state of mind. And as I've always mentioned, it's harder for you to decide to come to school than it takes longer for you to decide to come to school than to get through school, okay? So this is your full-time job to do excellent, and it's better that you learn what you need to learn, because this is theory right now, right? And you go to labs and this and that or whatever eventually. We're not talking about English, we're talking about your whole curriculum. And so whatever it is that you learn here, once you go out into externship and into real life, then you could really put in that theory into play and understand what it is that you learned, and then you put it into practice. So very, very important. Really put in the time for your weekly time chart. It was very important. Some of you guys did it really well. Some of you guys didn't, and you didn't understand it, and that's fine. Hold on, there's another. There was a personal feedback. Was there not? Oh, yes. So I did the weekly time chart because my book is like this, because I've had it forever. So my apologies. Your weekly time chart, I think, was the second assignment. So that I went on a rant on that just because it was just very interesting. That you guys, you know, you need to, you know, it was very interesting what I saw. Anyway, so page 3. So that was not page 3. That was page 7 for the weekly time chart. The page 3 for your personal feedback, okay? Your personal feedback is a 5-year plan. If you don't have a plan for 5 years, professionally and personally, then do it for 3, okay? My daughter always said, you know, those 5 years are ridiculous. I guess they are, especially now. It used to be before that you sort of lasted a long time. I'm so sorry, I'm getting really hot. Used to last a long time in your jobs. Now you change all the time or whatever. So at least figure out what it is, you know, have timelines. It's important for you. If you do not have set goals and objectives for yourself, okay, then how do you know that you reach them? And make sure that you have timelines to get there, okay? So you need to decide what it is your professional goal is and what it is your personal goal is, okay? I also recommend that if you are into spirituality or religion, that you have a goal for that too. And then there's nothing, and I added this extra stuff. So this is just for your information. I also added, you need to have a financial goal as well. How much do you want to make? Do you know how much you want to make? How much is it? If you're saying, I want to make a lot of money, Miss Edwin. Okay, well, what's a lot of money? Because a lot of money might be a lot of money for somebody that's, you know, $1,000 might be a lot of money for some people and some people not. So what is it that you want to do, and how is it, and how much money do you want to make? And if you don't know, then you need to come up with a specific number. What is it that you want? How do you know that you're going to reach it? If you want 25,000, if you want 50,000, or if you want to make 80 or 100,000, because you can make that, then how do you know you're going to reach it? If you don't know, if you just say a lot, how do you know that when you're going to reach a lot? So make sure that you understand what number of a financial goal you have and you want, and what is it that it's going to take, right? For me in education, I wanted to reach the highest, okay? At my top rate, I was at 100,000. How was I able to get 100,000? I needed to have a BA in education, right? Or a BA. I didn't have a BA in education. I had a BA in journalism PR. Okay, I had it in journalism, public relations. And then I had a master's in education because I was going to go into administration. I could make that kind of money when I was in administration. What does it take to be in administration? Well, it takes a master's. If you don't have a master's, then you can't go into administration. So what is it about your financial goal that you need to meet, and you need to meet all the requirements and you need to achieve in order to achieve it. And what is your personal goal, right? My personal goal is eventually, as I've told everybody, I have 2 ex-husbands because I can, right? And eventually I want to be married, and I want to be, harmonious and loving with my children and have excellent communication with them and be at peace and be loving and, have excellent communication and a great relationship with all my family and everybody that I come in contact with. Okay, so that's a personal goal of mine. I also want to learn how to knit. Okay, so that's another personal goal. Well, what am I going to have to do? I'm going to have to be able to figure out the needles, be able to figure out, what kind of yarn I need to use, and then watch a lot of YouTube videos and screw up a couple of times and do it. So those are personal goals I wanted. I was also in a challenge for 100 straight sit-ups, 100 days. I didn't make it. I made it only for a month. So I'm super behind. I'm not going to do them because I was very, very hurt, right? So you also need to make sure that you listen to your body, right? So that was a personal goal of mine. And so I'm just going to have to put it rest. So what is it about your personal goals, right? Do you want to lose weight? Do you want to eat healthier? Do you want to eat cleaner? Do you want to be vegetarian? Do you want to not eat fried meats? Do you want to not eat fried foods? Do you want to not eat red meats and go pescatarian? What is it? Do you want a healthier mind and body? 20 minutes a day is a mile, whether you walk it or whatever. You can't go to the parks, you can't go anything. Maybe you can walk in the backyard, and just pace it. So make sure that is. And then professionally, what is it that you want? And some of you want to be RN, some of you just want to be MAs. I will tell you this, once you get your MA certificate, you're going to want to be higher and higher and higher, because it's just the beginning of your degrees and your certifications. So what is it that you want? And you can create timelines. You know what? In 4 years, I'm going to be an RN. In 3 years, I'm going to do this. By the time that, I think your MAs are like, I don't know, 15 months, I think. I don't know. You guys are the ones that know. So how long is it going to take you to get it done? And your timeline doesn't have to be specific to time. Most of my timeline professionally, it just worked out this way, was my youngest son. So by the time my youngest son went into kindergarten, I had to be fully certified as a teacher, and I was. And then by the time he hit, I don't know what, I had to be at the highest earning capacity for me. Like by the time he hit high school, I had to have had my master's. My master's was younger. It was easier than that. So in order to be administration, I had to have my master's. By the time he hit high school, I needed to make sure that I was already an administrator and I was already a principal, so that way I could make my top money, so that way I could get ready for him to go to college. Okay, so your timelines can be set on your children, just like that one was set. My professional career was definitely tied to my youngest child's ages. Okay, so that was really interesting. So what is it that you want? So make sure that that's what it is that you check. You guys overall did exceptionally well. This is another section about biographies and why is it that you want to read. Reading is extraordinary. If you don't like to read, part of the reason that you don't like to read is because you're not reading the appropriate things, and you're not reading what you like. Start with things that you like. If you like tattoos, start with a magazine with tattoos. If you like cars, do cars. If you like gaming, do gaming. I like to garden. I like to cook. I like economics, right? Remember that I'm a broker, so I'm very much into economics. I'm into education. So I read a lot of, and of course I love fashion, and I love makeup, and I love hair. So I read a lot of stuff on that. And before, when we could go out, I used to go to Barnes and Noble and then just sit there and see all the magazines. And because the magazines are super expensive, I also do mind and body and spirit all the time in terms of meditation and things like that I've sort of self-taught myself. Okay, I've been a lifelong learner for that for a long time. So I read a lot of very esoteric, books by doctors and this and that or whatever that are very, very interesting, and that expands my knowledge in that realm. Okay, so I used to go to Barnes and Noble, look at all the magazines and whatever it is that I wanted. If there was a magazine that I really, really liked, then I bought it because they're super expensive. I read a lot on my iPad. I don't necessarily like it, but I do a lot of that as well. So I have a great variety of the things that I read. and I used to read a lot. I don't read that much anymore, but I used to read, two papers, the New York Times, the El Paso Times, and then I used to do all sorts of periodicals. I used to do The Economist. I don't like the New Yorker, and then all my other magazines that I sort of thought were frilly magazines that were really neat. So make sure that you find stuff that you like to read. And right now you're in school and you're just overwhelmed, and so they tell you what you read, but eventually there's a love of reading that I think you should, really strive for. And there's nothing like reading. There's nothing that compares it. Those people that go to the movies and they're like, I wasn't as good as the book, right? And so why? Because the book is extraordinary, because the details in the book, a well-written book, is to die for. It's like, it's like a telenovela, you just can't wait to get home and watch it. Now you guys watch it every time or whatever, but when I was a kid. And so that's what the book is like. You can't, every little instant you want to go read because you want to see what's next, and you can't put it down. And sometimes if you're an avid reader, or if you're not, you sort of go and, and be able to, can't sleep. And so you won't sleep because you're reading all the time. So make sure that you check that out. So personal feedback and goals, that's really, really important. Okay, and so let's moving on to the reading group. Okay, out of all my class for English 133, there was only one person did it right. Okay, so you guys timed yourself and you guys did your questions on the back. You didn't go to the article that I told you that you had to research and you had to look up on the internet. So the article that you have to look up on the internet is under a Forbes article, and it is titled, which is the appropriate verbiage, right? Do you read fast enough to be successful? So after you do this, you have to look for the Forbes magazine in the internet. Once you look it up, it'll tell you what level you are. You guys didn't state what level you are. Maybe you looked it up, but you didn't write it. Jacqueline, kudos to you. You followed instructions. It was great. She told me, I'm at this level. You're going to be shocked. This whole thing, I'm being shocked how you're going to be really low, this and that. I think I was at an 8th grade level, much to my excuse, right? I couldn't see and I had to like up and down or whatever, because I'm kind of blind and all my family's kind of blind, so it was a hot mess. But I don't think it would have made any difference. So anyway, it is what it is. There's all sorts of things to it. I really in the end didn't matter, but it is shocking because you think you read a lot better and you don't, or a lot faster. Now remember, the thing about reading fast is you need to be able to get through the test, the CCMA test. That's the whole deal. And everything now, it's about reading and having to get through the test. My broker test was all timed. You need to get through it. Now, you just don't get through it, because if you get through it and you didn't understand it and there was no comprehension, you're going to have to go back and reread. And that is going to be a problem because it's going to take time away from you. Okay. So if you read it and you read it really fast, but you don't have comprehension, then it's of no use. But if you read, then that means that you're going to have to slow yourself down to be able to comprehend. Okay. Also, if there's a lot of stops within your reading, well, that creates time and that delays the amount in which you finish, right? But it also creates like these like sections or these spans that don't allow for the fluidity, and so the comprehension is going to be harder. So the more you stop in every single time you can't figure out a word, or you whatever, or you lose your spot, right? You lose your place. You sort of go and then you start reading again, and what happens? Doesn't make any sense. So you have to go back. Well, you missed a whole line. So then you have to go back. All those are delays, and those create the miscomprehension, uncomprehension, not comprehension, who knows how you say it, right, of not understanding. So you have to make sure that you get the logistics part of it in order to be able to comprehend, and it's of no use if you rush through it and in the end you can't answer the questions. Okay, so you're gonna have to slow down. So make sure you go back. I gave you guys grades anyway. I put in the comments. Make sure on your comments for your grade, I told you, well, what's your level, right? And nobody had a level. So if you know what your level is, that's great. You should have put it on there. Maybe I missed it. Please forgive me. But if you haven't, the whole deal is about figuring out what your level is and understanding where you're at. And it's pretty dim. Okay. So that's it. So that was chapter 1. Okay, I will be reviewing it a little bit further tomorrow, but that's it. So remember that you have your midterm due on Thursday. You have to go to your SU daily attendance snapshot, which is you have to turn in. And then if you are behind on any classwork, make sure you get it in. Okay? Many blessings. See you tomorrow. Love and light. Don't be discouraged. Ciao.